if a dog falls into water unexpectedly, or it's colder than the dog thought, or whatever, or it gets a fright, the dog just shakes. Everyone sees that with dogs, right? Dogs go, and then they're back. That's them literally getting rid of anxiety. That's it, just there. Do we do that? No. Where does everyone store their tears? That's the kind of thought process. On this emotional trauma retreat, which was run by two women, most notably my friend Donna Lancaster, who I'd love for you guys to research if you could. She's written a book called The Bridge now. Unfortunately, it's really expensive to run, so they had to close the retreat, which is actually heartbreaking to me. But prior to that, I obviously understood, I guess intellectually, that feeling things or showing emotion is a good thing. I wasn't raised to think it was a bad thing, right? But I didn't cry for a long time. When I was, 16 to 23, I don't know, there's this kind of, and you'd have this with your mates, like, oh, I've not cried since I watched AI, or whatever. I don't know what it was. I think I cried watching AI when I was a kid. Anyway, sorry, move on. It's a film with the guy from The Sixth Sense. Sorry. Anyway, back on track. He turns to stone at the end. It just killed me. It just really broke my heart.
I can tell you right now.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. But for ages, there's this kind of thing like, oh, I didn't cry. There's a sense of pride attached to it. I went to this trauma retreat, and I had gone because I'd experienced this breakup. I'd lost a relationship, and you're asked to list the other losses. For me, it was both my grandparents, and that loss I actually felt straight away with a heartbreak, because the heartbreak was almost like the final brick of the dam, and all the other griefs I'd been running away from were hitting me. So I was dealing with losing this partner, who I'll explain why in a second, because that actually also contextualizes the book. But my gran was just the first. I was like, whoa, my gran died 4 years ago. I'd not even processed it. I loved my gran immensely. So anyway, at this retreat, I realised...
That's, by the way, one of the great lines, my gran. I love that. It's just brilliant. It's emphasis on it. It's beautiful.
Yes. It was,
beautiful.
She means a lot to me. But my point was, I didn't realise before that retreat that my emotion that I hadn't processed was stored in my body, It perhaps to me felt like a more of a qualitative idea, a kind of potentially even airy-fairy. This shit was trapped in my right knee. I had a trauma response in the final part of the group therapy. It would be long to explain the whole process, but we build up on this course 6 days to having a release. And this release is done, I don't know what the form of therapy is called, but we read out a letter we've written to somebody in a particular structure. The therapist holds space. They pretend to be the person, which is fucking intense. And my knee started shaking, and I had a trauma response. I shook, I cried, and in a second, I had 2 trauma responses. The second time I was held by the group, and I just realized, that's where it is. And suddenly all these memories of, men in my life or women in my life, mostly men, complaining about dodgy shoulders and backs and knees, and, there's this thing of where all the cortisol, it goes places. In fact, Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this, about what happens with stress and how it culminates and manifests if it's not
and you
processed.
say in the book, The Body Never Lies. There's a book, of course, The Body Keeps a Score. Very similar line.
Yeah, it's just, it frustrates me that there's even a debate about crying that just seems so surreal to me now. There is a reason why the body expels this fluid when we are wanting to work through something, when I am wanting to work through something, my body needs a release. And it doesn't have, listen, you don't have to immediately do that, but exercise can be a great trigger for it. Some people scream into a pillow. Some people just shake. The crazy thing about it is dogs, for example, right? Another theme of the book. If a dog falls into water unexpectedly, or it's colder than the dog thought, or whatever, or it gets a fright, the dog just shakes. Everyone sees that with dogs, right? Dogs go, and then they're back. That's them literally getting rid of anxiety. That's it, just there. Do we do that? No. We're there. If we got, you know what I mean? We just, from our phones, from our relationships, from whatever, we're taking all this in and we're just storing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I realized was, whoa, emotion is a physical reality. It's my responsibility to keep it moving as much as possible.
Yeah, I love that about crying. So there's been recent research, or is relatively recent in the history of emotion research, of tears of joy, crying tears of joy, and it's called karma mutta, is the term that's used. It's it's like a sort of a real sense of meaning, a real kind of wonder, and that's always when I cry. I watch films where the triumph of the human spirit, when people come together and the tears are rolling down my cheeks.
Yeah.
not so much when I'm sad, but mostly when I'm
Really?
when I'm feeling.
You struggle to cry when you're sad?
I don't. Yeah, I don't really cry very much at sad stuff. I cry at that triumph. You know, the kind of real connectedness of human condition.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, I'm asking you the questions. Right, so...
No, I find it,
no, thank you. Right, let's move on. I might come back to drugs. Let's leave drugs. I'm going to move to
Did we
heartbreak.
start on drugs?
I'm going to move. We're
we're
going to start.
come back to
We're
drugs
going to
now.
start taking drugs in a minute.
Yes.
So we'll come back. We'll move on to heartbreak because you mentioned in passing the heartbreak that you experienced at the breakdown of a relationship.
Yes.
So maybe before we get into that, maybe you want to explain.
Yeah. So
explain
this is
that.
another. So the other book, the other reason I wrote the book is because the book is in its very nature, I'd say, morally ambiguous. Okay, because what happened was with that relationship was I was with this woman for it wasn't that long, it was maybe 6 months, and I cheated on her, and I chose to tell her that I cheated on her, and then she left me, which I think rightly so. And that boundary was a massive wake-up call for me because relative to my existence, it was the first time, certainly, and bear in mind, I had been thrown into this kind of pop star sphere at 19 years old. So a lot of people say yes, you know? A lot of people I was searching for validation through these kind of facile forms of power for years at that point, because I was a young man. And suddenly it's no. And that was, I guess, all I needed to go, fuck, I don't want to be in this situation again because I don't want to make someone feel like that again, because I saw the effects of my actions in front of me. I saw the effect it had on this woman who I'd exchanged, loving sentiments with. And I just decided in that moment that I wanted to shift and change who I was. And I think it was interesting to explore that because that thing, betrayal, is still, in 2025, such a contentious, taboo topic. And I learned that firsthand because I was genuinely Googling. I laugh now, but it was fucking depressing. I was Googling, like, how to win someone back after cheating. And let me tell you this. People on Reddit have zero empathy for people who have betrayed other people. Not that they should have, I don't know. Well, I think they should. But it was like, first thing you need to learn about, I remember reading this, right? First thing you need to learn about cheating on someone, you've ruined their life. I was like, fuck, so I was super fucking sad, and this is another thing I felt would have been in some way helpful because, I speak to people that have obviously been betrayed and cheated on. It's fucking heartbreaking to be in that situation with somebody that you believe to have trusted. And so I thought maybe it would be of benefit for me to explain what was going through my mind in those moments, after those moments, just to provide more balance. Again, it's not right or wrong. I do not think betraying anyone is ever right. But I could explain what motivating factors were part of that self-sabotage. That's what I believed it was. Self-sabotage on my part. I was so unequipped to be in a mature, loving relationship at that time. But yeah, it was, and I wanted to just enter into that space. And I still get, bit of tension about it now because for a lot of people it's very black and white. People tell me I never loved her. People say that there's never an excuse. There's never, and I just all I was saying was exactly what happened and how I felt, just to provide balance. So that was essentially what made that heartbreak potentially worth writing about a little more. And I have had feedback, not specifically from men, by the way, or boys, about being on the other end of that.
I was going to say, have you got feedback that's in any way gendered? Do you get any differences with
No, I actually have had, if anything, I've had women message me encouraging me to try not to gender that thing because even though there's social conditioning and there are other aspects of betrayal that can be as a result of things we've been taught or learned or films we've seen, there are also childhood experiences that are transcend gender that can unify people's perceptions of love, how they've interacted with a parent, if they have both parents. The funny thing is, ADHD is another interesting conversation. You talk about impulsivity being like a key factor of ADHD, and then you maybe ask, have you made an impulsively stupid decision? Yes, you fucking have. So I don't know.
Did you ever get into...
Not an excuse, though. No. Sorry, not an excuse.
No, I just wondered whether you got into any reflection or introspection or discussion around monogamy as a narrative in our modern age.
Have I ever spoken about monogamy as a narrative?
No, well, I mean, have you?
Yes.
No, I'm trying to be really fucking careful about how I say this.
What? Do you believe in monogamy or what?
So I believe, as everybody who's ever been to any of my talks has learned over the last day or more, is that well-functioning societies celebrate difference.
Yeah.
So a well-functioning society will have people who are naturally, innately wired, I want to call it in a very crude sense, towards monogamy. It will also have those that aren't.
Yeah.
And diversity, gene diversity in offspring, there's all sorts of evolutionary reasons why a species like the human condition everybody will not be monogamous all of the time. So,
Sure.
So I just wondered whether that heterogeneity across people was something that you thought about.
Yes, I'm very open-minded generally in life. That's just my approach to life, I guess. And I've had to literally learn how to engage in a mature relationship by myself because I never saw it growing up as a child. And anybody who's ever been, had the misfortune of betraying somebody in that space would have watched a TED Talk by Esther Perel because, do you know Esther Perel? Yeah, she's like the saviour of all betrayal. Yeah. Why happy people cheat.
She saved lots of marriages, I reckon.
Well, she's just like the only person who doesn't instantly tell you you're a piece of shit straight away. Yeah. She might tell it to you in like a more therapeutic, slightly French way, I don't know. But Belgian way. Belgian French? No? Oh, fuck that up. I'm sorry. Slightly Belgian way. Sorry. That shows my ignorance as a Brit. But Esther Perel, she's a lifeline at that point when because honestly, I was wrapped up in shame. People responded to it differently, but I felt a massive amount of guilt, of shame, confusion, regret. I've got so many regrets. I'm not one of these people who lives life with no regrets. I'll just continue to live my life, but yes, I have many regrets. So she speaks about that. She speaks about, the confusing element for her is we've had love since the dawn of time and we've had betrayal since the dawn of time. So why don't we have more perhaps nuanced and open conversations around it? Do we subscribe to slightly toxic notions of ownership and possession around love? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Am I going to talk about it after writing a book about cheating? Probably not.
Well, let's talk about love and the heartbreak in relation to the impact it has on your music. And
to continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.